I have always been a tireless proponent of the middle class. Because
The middle class could be disappearing rapidly. Watch this.
Canada's middle class is literally non-existent right now.
The Canadian middle class is disappearing and fast. And what blows...
What is going on? How do I save money? Are you guys saving money? What's going on?
The middle class is officially dying in Canada. Check this out.
Why is life in Canada getting so damn expensive? No, here's the deal.
Utilities, they're all higher, and they're growing, and they're growing, and they're growing.
Well, Canadians right now are spending $1.74 for every $1 earned, which means they are 174% in debt.
In Canada, our middle class is actually taxed more compared to US.
Canada's sacred cow. It's not just expensive, it's fucking unsustainable.
Well, it's official. The middle class in Canada is on its deathbed.
Welcome to the Canadian Rant. Something feels different in Canada these days. The middle class, once the foundation of our communities, is slipping away. Families are facing higher debts and mounting taxes, all while paychecks seem stuck exactly where they were years ago. Pause for a moment and think about it. Simple dreams, like owning a home or saving for a child's future, are drifting further out of reach. Conversations around dinner tables have changed, from plans for tomorrow to worries about making it through today. It's not just about dollars and cents, it's about the quiet sacrifices, the skipped family nights, the second jobs, the hope for something better, now traded for uncertainty. When the middle class struggles, the entire country feels it. We all do. So today, let's give these stories a voice. Let's talk honestly about what's happening and challenge ourselves to demand change. If any part of this message strikes a chord, speak up in the comments, share this video, and hit like and subscribe. At Canadian Rant, this is where the conversation begins, and where we remind each other we're not alone. Let's reclaim the middle class, together.
And what you should be doing right now. Food prices, housing, insurance, utilities, they're all higher, and they're growing, and they're growing, and they're growing. Personal savings are down. Credit card usage is up. Renters are stuck in a cycle with no exit, and homeowners are afraid to sell and lose their locked-in rates. Then we have energy grid stress, supply chain instability. People are realizing that dependency is a vulnerability. Right now, focus on shifting from consumer to producer. Grow food, raise chickens, meet rabbits, make repairs, learn skills. Number 2, lower your monthly obligations. Number 3, build micro resilience, backup power, store food, clean water access, first aid. You don't need a bunker. You need a plan for 3 days, then 3 weeks, and then 3 months. Number 4, learn to cook from scratch. Filter water, fix things, communicate off-grid, and manage stress. Number 5, form alliances. Let me know in the comments what you think I missed.
Well, it's official. The middle class in Canada is on its deathbed. You ever feel like no matter how hard you work, you're still struggling? You're not alone. The Canadian middle class is shrinking extremely fast because wages aren't keeping up with inflation, housing, groceries, gas. Everything just costs more. But your paycheck, it's staying the same. Meanwhile, the rich are getting richer, corporate profits are at record highs, and CEOs take home millions in bonuses while every day Canadians drown in debt just trying to survive. The middle class used to be the backbone of this economy and this country, but now it's disappearing. Give me a follow for more tips, tricks, rants, and raves, and get financially literate along the way.
Now let's talk housing. Canada's sacred cow. It's not just expensive, it's fucking unsustainable. Real estate has gone from shelter to speculative asset. Mortgage debt is at a record high, and while policymakers brag about building homes, the reality is that most of what's being built is unaffordable to the very people who need it the most. Does this sound familiar? Cities like Toronto and Vancouver are now among the least affordable on earth. And the brain drain is real. Young, educated Canadians are leaving, some to the US, others to Europe, many just simply giving up.
I have always been a tireless proponent of the middle class.
because I realize that the value that stems from them is really immeasurable. On the contrary, there is nothing conceptive about the government. They reap the fruits of the middle class's labor. Without the middle class, the government would have zero livelihood. If I hypothetically had a cozy government job, that would be enough to humble me for life. When you look at Canada today, the middle class is beyond debilitated. But there's an irony there. Because why would you want to debilitate the people who provide your luxurious lifestyle?
If you're from Canada, I need you to wake up. Do you know why in Canada our middle class is actually taxed more compared to US? And this is why in Canada our homes are actually really expensive. But our salary is actually one of the lowest compared to the US in terms of which state you're living. I know this because I've been living most of my life, grew up in Canada, and I moved to US. I realized I increased my salary, but I was getting more tax back. I was like, wait a minute. In Canada, I guess we tax a lot more for the middle class. And food and rent is actually a lot cheaper in US. It just occurred to me, there's something going on in Canada that we don't talk about.
Yes, I would say that was middle class, but what gets really interesting is when you go look back at minimum wage when FDR brought it into the United States, and he was very clear when he defined what the minimum wage was supposed to achieve for a family with one working father, a stay-at-home mother, and 2 kids on minimum wage. He meant this. Look how far we've come. My question to my followers and viewers would be, what percentage of Canadians do you think are able to do this? Because that number's getting smaller all the time. And yeah, interesting question.
So I saw today a report about StatsCan saying that middle income earners earn between $40,000 a year and $120,000 a year. So basically they're saying the middle class is people earning just above minimum wage or people earning over 6 figures, and somehow they're all classed as the same. I don't know what else to say, but that is insanity. If you're making $40,000 a year, that is low income, close to minimum wage. Have a good day, Stats Canada.
If you are considered middle class, can you chime in and let me know what you have in your savings account? Because I swear, every paycheck I am putting money into my savings, but needing to transfer it back within a few days. My registration's due. My husband's registration's due. He needed 2 new tires, even though he had a warranty. That was $300. My oldest needs braces. He needs a palate expander. That's $120 a month. Not to mention, groceries are $200 more a week. Forget about feeding your family like great ingredients, because who has $500 a week to spend on perfect ingredients to feed your family? My husband makes enough money to where we should live comfortably. I mean, is it just the economy? What's going on? Is that why I don't have savings? I quit my job because we couldn't afford daycare. I was paying the daycare more than I was making. So at some point, something has to give. What is going on? How do I save money? Are you guys saving money? What's going on?
Okay, I just got home from work. I live in Ontario, okay? I own barbershops, 4 in Ontario, 1 in Victoria, BC. Something happened to me today and it kind of shook me. It shook me really good, okay? I was cutting someone's hair in one of my Ontario locations, and this is a client I've been cutting for a long time, and halfway through the service, he just starts crying. And I'm like, what's up, dude? I'm like, are you all right? And he's like, man, I don't even know if I can afford to pay for this haircut. He was looking at his banking. His credit card was maxed. He thought he had it in his budget. He's like, dude, I can't afford to get groceries. I can't afford my mortgage right now. I can't afford to put my kids and stuff. He's like, and now I don't know if I can afford to pay for this haircut. And I was like, don't worry, I got you. And, you know, I realized at that point, this is a grown-ass man who's got a good job. His wife's got a good job. He's got 2 kids at home, and this guy can't pay the bills. You know what I'm saying? And I thought to myself, I'm like, man, you know, I'm obviously going to cover the haircut for him, which I did. I comped him. But I thought, man, there's a lot of people going through this, and everyone puts on this poker face to pretend that shit's okay, when really it's not. Everyone out there is struggling, okay? It's very, very difficult to live here in Ontario and in Canada. It is expensive, you know? So I think everyone could be a little bit kinder to everybody, myself included, because I think, again, everyone puts on this poker face to try to say things are good, but it's expensive and it's hard out there. So just be mindful who you're talking to and what you're talking about, because you don't know what people might be going through, especially in these times of high inflation. So that just goes to show you're not alone out there. So good luck, everybody.
After 2 years of being separated from my husband, I have had to cut costs in every way that I could. I've had to move to a different apartment. I've had to sell my car. If you look back in videos, I've spoken about it before. I can't afford, on my one income, which is considered to be middle class income, I cannot afford to stay in an apartment with my one income anymore. And my last resort, which I never thought would happen in a million years, I am now going to be renting a room from my ex-husband in the home that we purchased together that he bought me out of 2 years ago when we separated. Full circle moment. Anyways, we're just friends, and like we're both helping each other in this situation. Stay tuned, because who knows what is coming. It'll be interesting.
I need to be brutally honest here. The Canadian middle class is disappearing, and fast. And what blows my mind is how quiet everyone seems to be about it. So think about it. We live in one of the wealthiest, most resource-rich countries on the planet. And yet more and more families are living paycheck to paycheck. Groceries are up double digits, triple digits. Housing prices are through the roof, and even though we're working harder than ever, we're falling further and further behind. Meanwhile, we've got billions of dollars leaving this country in resource exports, but somehow our families can't afford to heat their homes, fill their fridges, or buy their first house. So does that make sense? Because it doesn't to me. I used to lie awake at night worrying about this stuff, wondering how I was ever going to keep up, wondering how I was going to give my daughter Olivia the kind of future she deserves. But then I realized something. No one's going to fix this for us, right? Not the government, not the banks, not some magical financial policy. And that's when I turned to trying to figure out how to make money online, specifically digital marketing. I stopped waiting for someone else to solve my problems and started learning how to build something for myself. And it's not complicated. It's about creating a system where your time isn't directly tied to your paycheck anymore. So if you can post a video, you can learn this skill, and that skill can change your life. And look, I'm not special, right? I didn't grow up knowing this kind of shit. I just decided I was done being trapped in a broken system. And if I can figure this out, trust me, you can too. So look, just comment ready if you're fed up too. Follow me. October 1st is going to be when everything changes.
Canada, you thought America's middle class was dead? These numbers will have you shook to your core. I'm going to take it back to 1950, the year my father was born, where the median household income was $2,700, but the median house price was $7,500. So that is 2.8 times your salary. Now in 1984, the year that I was born, the median household income was $52,000 and the average house price was $76,000. So that is 1.4 times your annual salary to purchase a house. But in 2024, the median household income is $75,000. But here we go. The average house price in Canada right now is over $750,000. That is almost 10 times what you make to get into the housing market. So in 1984, yes, interest rates were 18%, but at least you were in a house. So millennials now are working 2 or 3 jobs just to get into the housing market. But in 1984, at 1.4 times your annual salary, it was easy to purchase a house. Now you're trying to figure it out just to get into a house. So when I talk about America's middle class being dead, Canada's middle class is literally non-existent right now. It is shrinking by the day. Canada, what do we do?
The middle class could be disappearing rapidly. Watch this. This recent report from the Government of Canada paints a dark picture of what this country could look like by 2040. This includes changes to housing such as home ownership being unrealistic, post-secondary education no longer being a reliable path to a better future, and more people actually leaving Canada to find better opportunity elsewhere. This could mean things like home ownership rates have already peaked, and we would only be basically headed downwards from here. So we basically shift away from having a middle class and shift towards a two-tier society, have and have-nots, with property ownership being a major deciding factor of which group you fit into. I want to place a huge disclaimer on all of this, however. What I've described could be a possible scenario, but it doesn't mean it's the only scenario or even the most likely scenario. It's just a possibility. How much of this will end up being true, obviously nobody knows yet. But I want to know what you guys think this country will look like by 2040. Let me know down below.
So, Canadians are broke, but so is Canada. Let me explain. Have you ever heard of the term, you are who you hang out with? Well, Canadians right now are spending $1.74 for every $1 earned, which means they are 174% in debt. Canada, not much better. Canada's gross debt is roughly about 111%, which is actually 5th amongst the G7 nations and 7th amongst the 32 top-ranked nations in the world. Not good. Now, how you calculate gross debt, we include some things versus others not, but still, we are very poor when it comes to debt. From 2014 to 2024, Canada was the worst in government spending and saw a 25% increase in the debt burden, which is more than any other advanced economy. We went from 85% to over 110%. And when you have so much debt at a federal level, it means the dollar that you pay in taxes doesn't stretch as far. You see, right now we pay about 10% to debt, which means 10% of your tax dollars isn't going towards services that you should be paying for. And that's even worse when you combine the provincial debt. When you consider that we pay more in taxes than we do for food, shelter, and clothing combined, it's a little concerning. Give me a shot. Good.
I'm gonna do everywhere.
So less towards healthcare, education, roads, you name it. Bottom line is, if you take our gross debt and our obligation to service that debt, as well as the trajectory of where we're going with new government, we are likely one of the most vulnerable developed nations moving forward. Now, we can't choose who we hang out with. We live in Canada. But what we can do is watch who we hang out with and change our own spending accordingly. Everybody knows that one person that just spends without any accountability. Don't be that person. You see, when we talk about debt, it's not just about me and you.
What?
It's about these kids. And that's why it matters.
Here's my two major issues with Carney's housing plan and why it's not what Canadians think it is. First, the creation of a brand new federal developer called Build Canada Homes. Instead of using existing agencies like the CMHC that has the experience, the infrastructure, and the mandate, or partnering with builders, this plan sets up a massive new government bureaucracy to construct homes on public land. If you think government-run construction sounds slow, expensive, and an absolute nightmare, I promise it's going to be worse than what you think. Second, this plan has no path to homeownership. It is a path to permanent tenancy. This plan talks about building affordable homes or deeply affordable homes, but not once does it mention selling them or home ownership. This means the federal government keeps ownership and Canadians, especially young families, are just renters. Mark Carney compares his housing plan to Mackenzie King's post-World War II housing strategy, but King helped Canadians buy homes. His government created the CMHC, sold homes to veterans, and built the middle class. And Carney? He's offering government-owned rental units. No equity, no wealth building, and no real path to ownership. That's not housing freedom, it's just long-term tenancy. So let's call the plan what it is, an expensive bureaucracy and a rental future run by Ottawa. If Carney wants to channel Mackenzie King, he should start by giving Canadians a real chance to own, not just rent.
Why is life in Canada getting so damn expensive? No, here's the deal. Housing is a challenge. There aren't enough homes. Labor's in short supply for the growth. There's too much red tape, and net zero building codes are significant expenses, and costs are still fluctuating. Investors are still trying to buy up available homes, causing rents and prices to continue climbing. Prices have surged across the board for groceries, gas, and phone bills. They've all increased since COVID lockdowns disrupted supply chains. Now, when you add in a war and reckless energy policies into the mix, it creates a perfect storm for inflation. And the Bank of Canada solution? Sky-high interest rates. Now your mortgage or car loan or student debt costs way more. That's great. Meanwhile, minimum wage has moved up to offset this. But unless you're in tech or trades, it's probably not enough. Sadly, that causes prices to climb too. I mean, wait, what happened to the happy balance that we once had? I mean, groceries, mobile phone bills, a few big companies run the show, and they're charging premium prices because they can without more competition. And with food, since we import a number of food products from outside of Canada, global price hikes hit us harder. Energy bills, they're up, thanks to higher fuel prices and taxes, and especially, these lovely green fees. Just keeping the lights on feels like a luxury now. Plus, Canada's population is growing too fast, but housing and essential services, they can't keep up. More people and a limited ability to grow equates to higher prices. So, yeah, it's not just you. Life really is more expensive in Canada, and you're supposed to be in charge. Either governments fell asleep at the wheel, or they're driving us off a cliff. You know what? I don't think Canada's unaffordability is by accident.
Guys, I swear I own another sweatshirt, but I just happen to be in this one every single goddamn time that I make a video, but whatever, nothing matters anymore. I'm just going to put this out there. I'm a Gen Xer, born in 1979, just on the cusp of maybe like an elder millennial or whatever. It doesn't matter. But here's what I want to say. My young adult life, like when I was 19 years old or maybe 20, it was like our earth was shattered, our world was shattered by the Columbine. Like, now we have guns in schools, and that was so earth-shattering. And then my also young adult life, like I remember being in my first like office job thinking I was so fucking cool, and watching the towers collapse on 9/11, and then there being a freaking decade-long war. And I was a recruiter. I'm still a recruiter in 2008, watching grown-ass adults applying for these entry-level jobs that I was posting. And I remember, feeling so sorry for them and so ashamed for them, because these were like executives willing to take these very low-paying jobs because the market was crashing. And then, of course, so there was the housing market crash. There was the recession. And we had a few good years. We did. We had a few good years. But then we had a global pandemic. And now I lost $60,000 since February 1st. Like, I'm an average middle class, like whatever. I work in education, okay? $60,000 is a ton for me. I've lost $60,000 since February 1st in my 401k. And democracy is dying, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm trying to keep perspective here. I'm coming from a place of privilege. But Gen X, millennials, like, are we tired? Are we tired? Like, I want to live in precedented times. I would just give anything for a little precedented times. I'm tired. Who's with me?
I think a lot of people are sold a dream to go buy a house and to pay off their mortgage for 30 years. That's what we think is normal. That's what our parents did. And that is like the biggest milestone, right? You buy a house, you pay it off after 30 years. 30 years rolls around and you're old and frail. You can't do much. You've worked all your life to pay off this house. And the difference is with people like us that are Gen Zs and millennials, they've seen this roster and they don't want to live like that. They want more freedom. They want to be able to not only travel, but be able to live a good life, which includes being able to spend time with their family, be able to work on creative projects, be able to start businesses and not live hand to mouth. Now, instead of selling this big dream, which I completely resist, of buying a house that you can afford and just buying a house to say you own a house, anyone that does not own a house looks downward on the social society, like almost like you're not where you're supposed to be. And I felt that because for the longest time, we didn't own a house. Then we finally owned a home, and through that home we went broke because we actually couldn't afford it. And then we sold that home. And then after selling that home, we had a lot of pressure to go buy a home again. And we don't own a home. Okay. I actually rent my place and I'm very, very happy because I took all of my money and instead I bought investment properties. And that's what they don't teach you. They don't give you that mindset and mentality to tell you that if you invest your money, that you'll be able to go a lot further. The other problem is by investing your money, the banks give you shit. Okay. They give you 0.1% on your money. So a lot of people are like, what's the point of investing when I'm not really going to get a return? However, real estate happens to be one of the best investments you can make. And I truly still believe that if you can own a piece of land or a house here in Canada while you can, you should definitely do it. The issue is that they don't teach you how to own land and buy real estate unless and until it's for yourself, because they've been pushing to buy bigger houses, and they don't teach you that you could take that same amount of money and put it into 2 or 3 different houses. And when people think about that, they feel a little bit out of that social status because they can't compete with their friends that own homes. But that is the wrong social status to be following. We have to look out for ourselves. We have to look out for our families and what puts food on the table. And as long as you are in Canada and you're not taking advantage of some of the opportunities that they don't tell you it's your job to research and build, you will forever be stuck in this system of continuously just working and working and working, and then one day retiring and looking at your pension and looking at your funds and then living off of that little pension that the government promised you they would give you.
The middle class is officially dying in Canada. Check this out. Most households are predicting.
Go back and watch that video because he's talking about the exact same thing I've been talking about and what I'm going through. It's the fact that the middle class doesn't exist anymore, because middle class is supposed to be where you own a home, you own a vehicle, and you're able to save for retirement. That is what is considered middle class. And that is very quickly disappearing because now a lot of people, you either were in the middle class and now you've become the rich, or you were in the middle class and now you've been demoted to the poor. That's it. You either went one of the other ways. And I see it in the comments on the videos. I see it. I can see the difference of the two people. I see the ones that are part of the poor, the part that are going through all these things. And then I see the ones that are part of the rich who are like, well, that's too bad for you. So you know what? That's fine. And you're allowed to your opinion, and your life experience has led you to this point. But unfortunately, not everybody is part of the minority. That's why it's called a minority. But anyways, watch that video. Start to look. I mean, if you think that rents, when I'm talking about $6,000 rents, people are like, oh, it's so much money. Go and look. Just go on to realtor.ca and just peruse 4+ bedrooms and see how much they are. And you will be shocked at the prices. But then you'll also be shocked at the fact that it's not even a full house, or that the basement's not even finished, or the landlord is keeping a bedroom, or the landlord lives in the basement or keeps the basement for himself. And then you'll start to be like, wow, like these rent prices are kind of ridiculous. And I'm not just talking about like Vaughan, Richmond Hill, like look everywhere. Look everywhere. And you'll understand how expensive things are and how out of control it is. And yes, I would love to leave the province, but I cannot because our jobs are all here. We're not fully remote workers, so we have to be in the office and we have to be in the area. So for us to leave, that means that all 5 of us would have to find new jobs that were either all fully remote for all of us, or where we would find jobs in the new area. And that's not as easy to do. The job market is also really complicated and hard right now. So there's a lot of roadblocks. It's a lot of roadblocks, but I am trying to work through it. And growth is not linear. It is a roller coaster, and I am on it. And I'm hoping that I will be successful as I continue to work my ass off to try to better my situation.
So where does that leave us? The reality is stark. Canada's middle class is hanging by a thread. The backbone of this nation, once built on hard work and opportunity, is weakened by debts, high taxes, wages that haven't kept up, and a dream that feels further away each year. We can't just stand by and hope it gets better. The headlines shout about economic recovery, but on the ground, families are making impossible choices, choosing between heating and groceries, working overtime for just a little extra, sacrificing time, health, and hope. This isn't the Canada that so many have worked and sacrificed for. It's not the promise that brought so many to these shores. When the middle class suffers, the soul of the country suffers. And when politicians and leaders talk about solutions but offer nothing more than empty promises, it's time for real voices to rise. Here's the truth. Waiting for someone else to fix it is no longer an option. The system needs to change, and that change begins when we refuse to stay silent. Speak up. Demand accountability. Challenge what's broken, because every voice matters. And together, our voices can shake the foundations of power. This is more than economics. It's about respect, fairness, and justice. It's about recognizing the middle class not as a statistic, but as real people. Parents working 2 or 3 jobs just to keep a roof over their families' heads. Young adults forced to delay milestones like buying a home or starting a family. Communities feeling the strain when local businesses close and opportunities vanish. If we allow this trend to continue, we risk more than just economic disparity. We risk losing the very fabric of what makes Canada strong. Its people, its hope, and its promise of a fair chance for all. At Canadian Rant, these are not just words. This is a call to action. If you feel the squeeze, the frustration, the loss, share your story, stay connected, and remind yourself and others that there is strength in numbers. Be relentless, be informed, and most of all, be loud. Because the future of Canada's middle class is not just a statistic, it's a fight for dignity and survival. And it's a fight worth having. We owe it not only to ourselves, but to the generations who will come after us. To build a Canada where hard work is rewarded, where fairness is the rule, not the exception, and where no one has to choose between putting food on the table or keeping the lights on. Thank you for watching Canadian Rant. Stay strong, stay passionate, and remember, the real Canada is built by those who refuse to give up. Let's reclaim it together.